it's not very often that we have return engagements because usually after I interview somebody, they don't want to talk to me again. But here I am talking to Seth Meyers a second time. Um, I, I guess you liked our first conversation.
Anyway, I'm playing the hot hand. You know, this is our first nomination. It was the first time I talked to you. So at this point, you're kind of a good luck charm. What am I going to do? Say no to Dewey?
Well, you don't want to say no to me, and you obviously have to include me in the acceptance speech, right? I mean, you
Yeah,
know.
the list is getting pretty long. So don't blame me if we get played off. Just know that Dewey was probably the next name after the cello comes in.
So like, wife has to be first on the list, right? Or you're dead.
Well, that's a really interesting question. And I know you don't want to talk about this, but I feel like if I won for a stand-up special, wife would be first. But when you win for a show, it's too many people. I don't think you're speaking on behalf of a larger group of people. So you can't just thank your wife.
Well, I mean, I think it's wife first in any capacity, quite honestly, because you got to protect that home life because you don't want to deal with the shrapnel that'll come.
Dewey, did she get to you? How did she get to you, Dewey?
Well, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. We're just gonna
promise you anything. You don't know it's never gonna come.
Okay. All right. Now, in terms of finding out, where were you?
I was talking to Ray Seahorn yesterday because she was on the show. It's so embarrassing because the weird things you do when you don't get nominated, no one ever asks you, right? Nobody ever says, where were you when you found out you didn't get nominated? But, you know, I've had some years where I will admit to have gotten my hopes up. And this year, the big issue for me was I just didn't want to be around my kids when I found out we didn't get it, because I didn't want to have to fight through a bad mood in front of them. So I went for a run, but I brought my phone with me, and then I hid my phone under a pile of leaves, and then did a loop when nominations came out. And I realized, by the way, this sounds insane. My wife agrees with you. And then I picked up my phone, I turned it back on. And the lovely thing is when you don't get nominated, you get texts from 5 to 10 dear friends telling you, something along the lines of like, get them next year, or, hold your head up. But this time it was about 100 texts. And you realize when you get that many, it probably is good news.
Who reached out to you that was the most surprising?
Oh, gosh, it wasn't really, it's not surprising to me, which I think speaks to the quality of them as people. But so many of my colleagues in the late night field reached out, and that was really sweet, to hear from, Jimmy Kimmel and James Corden and John Oliver. Like, that means a lot to me. And they all have such great shows. So it's that was a little bit extra special.
But I thought you guys were supposed to hate each other. Isn't that what that's all supposed to be? Or isn't that what that movie was about?
We're doing a really bad job. I want to apologize to Bill Carter, who's written very readable books about the late night wars. And now I just feel like if he wrote another one, it would be a dud.
So when you get to the office after they make this announcement, what's the first reaction? What occurs?
Well, I will say the slight bummer is it was a hiatus Tuesday. So it was a whole, 6 days until I saw everybody again. It would have been lovely if it had happened, obviously, on a work day, because I feel like that would have been the sort of the whooping celebration. And especially for someone who loved sports but was never good at it, it would have been nice to be in a room where everybody cheered at once. The nice thing for me is on Sunday night, I was actually on vacation with my family. And so I got back late on Sunday night, and I met my producer, Mike Shoemaker, who I've been doing this with, since I was at SNL in 2001. And we met at a bar and just were able to sort of toast how lucky and fortunate we feel.
I mean, I'll put it out there. The show's come a long way. I mean, you've come a long way with this show. You've come from just a writer on SNL to being thrust into this limelight to having to morph the show to something that you felt would work with your talent, your skill set, so to speak. And you're now reaching new levels. And I have to admit, you've probably had times where you're like, oh, well, where's this going to go? But the journey has to be satisfying for someone like you.
Oh, 100%. And I will say Shoemaker and I do a really good job of checking in sort of at every sort of marking post of the journey. We're very aware that as nice as it is to get something like an Emmy nomination, and it is really nice, like it's far more important to feel like you're doing good work, to like the people you work with, to feel like you're making progress, that you're not stuck in a rut. And those are things that we've always have felt to be the case. Don't get me wrong, this is a wonderful cherry on top of it, but I would much rather do a show I'm proud of without an Emmy nomination than the negative image of that. So right now, to sort of get both, it's really perfect.
Do you feel like the show has room to grow?
Oh, there you go, Dewey. Got you.
No worries. Do you feel like the show has room to grow, in your opinion? Do you have like thoughts about where it could go from here?
The only thing I'll say is it's always grown, so I'm going to assume it's going to keep growing. I never predicted how it's going to grow. I think that the show became more authentic to what we want to do during the pandemic, but that happened because we all of a sudden were able to do it, or had to do it, I should say, without an audience, and we took some big creative swings we never would have taken if everybody had been there. So that was impossible to predict. The next thing is probably impossible to predict. But it's nice every now and then, if you go back and look at what the show was even 6 months ago, it always feels rewarding to us that we can see little improvements along the way.
What do I have to do to get forced friendship back?
Oh, wow. That's a deep cut. A Forced Friendship was a wonderful bit, spearheaded by Connor O'Malley. I don't know if you know Connor O'Malley. He was first hire writing staff for us, and he's gone on to do some really funny things. But it would be nice to get Forced Friendship back in the mix. And I would say the Lester Holt Forced Friendship has aged very well.
Just some tips from one parent to another. How do you navigate doing these when you have kids walking around? Because I'm desperately trying to keep them out of the shot as we speak.
You're doing a good job. I have not seen them once. How old are yours?
Oh, mine. I have a 6-year-old and a 9-year-old, and right now my 9-year-old is trying to get my attention by doing yoga over here. Oh no, he's not apparently. And my other one's slamming the door loudly.
I will say, is the as much as I found the attic shows exhilarating, I do not miss being one attic door away from my children. It is nice. It is nice to do the show knowing that won't happen.
What guest have you been the most excited to come onto your show? Like, what one has got you the most charge that they booked, and you were just over the moon that you were able to score this particular person?
Oh man, Letterman being on for the anniversary show. I mean, I was both over the moon and immediately, it was one of those bookings where you pump your fist and then you immediately start flop sweating because you're worried you won't pull it off. But that is the kind of thing that feels really special. And then the rest of the time, I'm always just, anytime it's a person that I've looked up to forever and they come on the show, when you're lucky enough to have Martin Short or Steve Martin or Nathan Lane, these talk show, pros, the guests that you used to watch when you were a kid and who would light up any episode they were on, like that's really exciting. And I'm always so happy when that happens.
What was it about Letterman that got you so in a panic? Is it just the prestige of what he's done with the shows that he's been on? Or is it because you've always looked up to him? What was it about Letterman?
Well, the thing is, you want to make it important, but you also know that David Letterman's not going to enjoy it if you make it too important. Here's a guy whose entire comedy career was sort of predicated on the idea that we can't take ourselves too seriously. So even though it meant a lot to me, the only value it was going to have is if he and I sat there and had a conversation like equals. He doesn't want to, I think he knows in the back of his head that we're not equals, but he doesn't want to be treated like what he is, which is on Mount Rushmore of comedy, certainly of talk show hosts. So that was the hard part, was just reminding yourself that as much as you want to gush and tell him how much he's meant to you, that's probably not what he wants to hear. And he certainly doesn't want to hear it in front of a room full of people.
Does he meet with your producers ahead of time and do like the pre-prep, or is it just turn on the lights and go?
With Letterman, was there pre-prep? There was. I think he has an appreciation for the way talk shows work, and so he's been really lovely. Like, everybody here who's gotten to interact with him on his visits back, it's only been twice, but their takeaway is, how incredibly polite he is, and also how, maybe it's nostalgia, or maybe it's just someone who understood more than anybody how many people behind the scenes work to make the host comfortable when, the camera light actually goes red. And so they are really, everybody here has been really enamored with him when he's come through, not just because of who he is, but how he treats the rest of us.
I think your show reached another level, in my opinion, when you reach the point where you're just like, fuck it, I'm going to do what I want to do, and I don't care what people say. And that it was at that point, I guess, during what you would refer to as the attic shows, things started to go to another level, because I feel like in the beginning you may have wanted to do things in a traditional way, and slowly but surely now it's you. The show is you.
Yeah, it's really nice. I think that with an audience, you do have to show your work a little bit. I think it's really sweet when people make that observation now, because I think they've seen it become more authentic over time. I think if I had, the show had started with me talking to a sea captain painting, people might have thought I wasn't taking it very seriously. But due to the events that have happened, many of the events being, national and worldwide, and so everybody sort of can appreciate the steps we've had to take. But it does, the part of the show that I think we're the proudest of is we are 100% doing the version of the show we want to do. When you get these jobs, there's just this burden to be a competent talk show host, because you're so worried they've made a mistake in giving you the job in the first place. And it's only after you establish competence that you can sort of start taking the chances that, in a perfect world you would have taken for the beginning, but you maybe just had a little bit too much fear in between you and willing to take that risk.
Did you actually think they made a mistake when they picked you for the show? Because I thought you were the perfect choice when you were announced. I find that endlessly fascinating that you would say that.
Well, look, I don't think anybody is well served walking into a job like this and thinking, I'm the guy. You definitely in the back of your head want to make yourself the best version of who you are and take it as seriously as you can. But I didn't see it coming. I still remember I was on the road and I was in a Red Roof Inn somewhere and I knew Leno was retiring. I knew Jimmy was taking that job. I knew that I currently had Jimmy's last job, and yet none of the succession occurred to me until Lauren called me up and was like, oh, I think you should, and then you'll be good at it. And I've always said, Lauren, all the big conversations Lauren has had with me in my life, he talks like it's a follow-up conversation to a conversation we didn't have. So it's not like, are you sitting down? I want to offer you late night. It's more like, so I think, you'll do it and then it'll be good. And then you like hang up the phone and you don't even know if you're supposed to like throw your fist in the air. You're like, I don't know what's going on here.
Did you have reservations about accepting it? Or did you have to think about it, or was it an immediate yes?
I had some reservations about what I thought the lifestyle would be of doing one of these shows every day. What I did not take into account is that nothing is a more taxing schedule than SNL. And so even though we do double the weeks of shows a year at SNL, this is a far better life for being a parent and being a spouse. And I was also, the reason in the end I didn't hesitate was I'd just been at SNL for so long and I had not developed any exit strategy. I loved being at SNL. I was really happy when I was there. I look back and I'm so happy this happened, because I think I would have, I would have become the oldest person there, and just grown into something that I didn't want to be. Whereas now, I'm still older than all my writers, but it just works. It's a better dynamic.
We're going to end on this. And again, I can't thank you enough for agreeing to talk to me again. I was endlessly surprised that you said yes, because I just find your career trajectory and what you've done through SNL and writing one of my favorite sketches, the girls sketch at SNL. I just found out recently you were a part of that. Just all the way through late night. I mean, I just think your career is fascinating to discuss. I could talk to you hours about it. But one thing I want to get out there are people watching this today who are aspiring to be writers, to be comedy writers, and they don't know like the process of getting that, say, to your show or another show. But we'll use your show as sort of a template. How does somebody submit their work to you guys if they wanted to submit a joke, let's say?
Well, we don't take, standalone jokes.
Okay.
And what we do is we look for writers when we have openings. It's a great reality for us. It's a sad reality for writers. We don't have a ton of turnover at our show. And so, I think the last writer we hired was Jeff Wright, and that's now probably 15 months ago. So a lot of our writers are happy here, and in order for us to have new slots, they need to graduate to whatever their next chapter is. And but when we are looking for writers, when we take submissions, mostly we take them through people with agents. Except I should note, so Jeff Wright, let's use him as a good template. We just saw Jeff Wright on TikTok, and we reached out to him via social media, and that's how it all started. And I do think the difference between what we look for now, or I should say how we look now, and how I used to look when I was at SNL, it's very nice how technology has democratized the search process. We used to just go to places like Second City. We used to only read packets from people with agents. Now, if people making jokes on Twitter, people doing TikTok, if you're funny, if you want to be a comedy writer, there's a lot of platforms for you to get your work out there. And I know it might seem daunting in the beginning, but just get content out there for people to look at when your name comes across their plate.
In my top 10 of people I've spoken with over the years, you were consistently up there because you're just so full of stories, and I could talk to you again, like I said, for hours. Congratulations on the Emmy nomination. I hope you get a sitter for that night. You don't want to bring the kids.
This is weird. Can I bring your kids? Because if one of them's good at yoga, I feel like that'll help me be less.
So you want to bring Charlie to the
I'd like Charlie to be my plus one.
Charlie, what do you think? You want to go to the Emmys? Real quick.
Wait, what?
Hi, Charlie.
Say hi.
Hi.
I'll talk to his people and let you know, Seth.
Thank you. Thanks for the hookup.
Again, congratulations, well deserved. Finally, they recognize the excellence that is your show.
Very kind of you. Thanks. Great talking to you again, Dewey.
Thank you. Bye.